Welcome to the MORDORK podcast. You may not be able to simply walk into Mordor, but you can simply listen to the MORDORKs. I'm your host, Carson, here with my co-host, Aaron. Say hi to the people.
Hey, people.
I feel like that was really delayed, but okay.
You'll notice that we aren't showing our beautiful faces this time. Reason for that is we have tried to do video.
And I don't want them to find me through these videos.
That's exactly the reason.
It's because technology sucks.
Yeah, this is our second time recording this episode, so that's cool. So we're going to be doing audio over Skype for the most part, unless, you know, something happens and Carson gets better Wi-Fi.
My Wi-Fi is fine.
Your Wi-Fi sucks.
It's working fine. How do we know it's not your Wi-Fi that's the problem?
Oh, you're coming on to my Wi-Fi. Gonna install my okay.
Okay, before we get out of hand, let's start the episode officially, even though I already kind of did that.
Yeah, alright. Do you like news? Is that a thing you enjoy?
Yeah, you ask me that like every week.
Yes, I do. Because news can change people. People never know if they like news or not. It can be different from one week to the next.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm ready to hear the news again. I mean, I've already heard it since we've already tried recording this, but I'll try to act like I haven't.
Yes. Did you know that Norman Reedus, star of The Walking Dead, wants to play Ghost Rider? In an interview, he said that he wouldn't mind.
What? Oh,
yes, I know.
I had no idea that he was interested in playing that. I mean, I don't know how he'll ever live up to Nick Cage's interpretation of the character, but we'll see.
Yeah. He did say he was a fan of Nicolas Cage's portrayal of the Ghost Rider, but he says that he would be totally down for it. He thinks it's awesome. Of course, Kevin Feige and no one at the MCU headquarters, wherever that is, are really thinking about doing Ghost Rider anytime soon, which is unfortunate, but I think Norman Reedus would probably be good enough, I guess.
I'd have to see him in the role. He's not like one of the people that I like. If you were to ask me who should play Ghost Rider, I don't think Norman Reedus would have made the list, but
yeah,
you know, actors have surprised me in the past, and so I definitely want him to at least get a chance to audition, especially if he's really wants to do it. I mean, that's kind of like a rule of mine, is if an actor wants to play a part and is passionate about it, they're probably going to put more effort and be more successful in that part than somebody who's just doing it for a paycheck. So give them a chance. Obviously, just because somebody wants to play a role doesn't necessarily mean that they should, because you also got to find somebody who's actually right for that role.
Yeah,
and so,
I don't know.
And so, I think that he should at least be given a chance to audition for it.
Yeah,
in this hypothetical universe where Ghost Rider actually has some movie or TV show or Netflix series coming up. But
yeah,
last night
that's probably not going to happen.
No plans, or even talks of plans for that.
Yeah. Hey, maybe he'll make a cameo appearance in The Defenders. That would be awesome.
That would be cool. That'd be really far. That still feels really far away.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so Stan Lee says that his favorite comic book movie was Spider-Man, the first one in 2002.
Yeah.
He mentioned that because he picked that one because, first of all, Spider-Man is usually the one he gives for his favorite of the characters he's created, and also it was kind of the one that really made comic book movies, you know, more like they showed that could be a fun comic book movie, but also be sort of like an actual comic book too. You know, that good balance between cheesy and serious.
Yeah, and it helped to revive the comic book genre and kind of usher in this renaissance of comic book movies that we're currently living in. I mean, like I said yesterday, whenever we were trying to record this, Blade and X-Men were kind of came first and kind of started to reinvigorate the comic book genre. But it was really Spider-Man that showed movie studios that people really want to see this, and this can be a really successful subgenre of the film industry, these comic book movies. And so I really think that Spider-Man deserves a lot of credit for bringing about this superhero renaissance.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't think that the original Spider-Man has aged that well, or at least not as well as a lot of people seem to think it has, but I still am very nostalgic for it, even though I don't think it's as good as a lot of people remember it. I don't know, I just think that even though Spider-Man helped to usher in this era, I think that superhero movies have to come along. And so it's showing its age, but I definitely respect it for what it did for the genre, and also just for being a huge part of my childhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, while we're on the subject, I've already explained this to you, but I want to explain to the viewers something. I figured out why Spider-Man 3 is generally disliked by moviegoers.
Why is that?
Well, there was something that Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2 had that Spider-Man 3 lacked. And I've seen videos picking apart Spider-Man 3, pointing out all the problems, and I'm here to say they are wrong. All of them are wrong. The whole dislike that Spider-Man 3 gets comes down to one thing.
Here it is, folks.
The reason that Spider-Man 3 was disliked was because it did not have a side character singing a comedic song about Spider-Man in the film.
You just blew my mind with that.
Think about it. Spider-Man 1 had that one cowboy western guy in the club singing, dresses like a spider, looks like a bug, but we should all just give him one big hug. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. And people love Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2 had that Asian woman with the violin, or the violin-esque instrument. If it wasn't a violin, I don't remember. Singing first the original Spider-Man song from the old cartoon, and then later she sang a remix version of it about asking where he's gone. So it had twice as many comedic songs about Spider-Man. And people consider Spider-Man 2 to be the best one of Sam Raimi's trilogy.
Yeah,
Spider-Man 3 did not have a comedic song. It had a comedic dance number, but that's just not the same. So
there weren't any spiders in that song.
If they had introduced a character who sang a comedic song, people would have loved Spider-Man 3. That is the definitive reason why Spider-Man 3 is not regarded highly.
You heard it here first, folks. The real reason behind Spider-Man 3's failure.
It only took us, 7 years to figure it out?
Yeah.
Didn't that come out?
Okay, so Ghostbusters. The next chapter in the saga of the movie of Ghostbusters, which hasn't come out yet. Both the new and the old Ghostbusters showed up in an interview on Jimmy Kimmel Live, the white bread of late-night talk shows. Everyone was there from the new cast, the 4 Ghostbusters plus the older ones. And in this interview, Bill Murray basically said that he was pretty conflicted about returning in a cameo for this Ghostbusters movie, but he believes that the women who are going to be starring in this role, he says that he believes in them, and he would rather come out showing support than not. So that's why he chose to cameo in this movie. So the question being, if Bill Murray believes in it so much, why don't we?
Because Bill Murray did what's that movie?
You're gonna try to think of a bad.
No, I have one in mind. I just cannot think of what the title is.
Has he been in a bad one?
Yes, there was this one animated movie. It was like largely animated, but then it would cut. It was like these cells were living inside of Bill Murray's body and taking care of him. 1 second, I'm looking.
You're thinking of a drug trip you had once.
No, I'm going to look it up.
I think because every movie I've seen him in, he's been not only the best part, but it's been one of the funniest movies ever. Because you got Groundhog Day, you've got Stripes, you've got that other one You know the one. Oh, Zombieland? He was in a
Oh yeah,
weird
Zombieland
cameo
is
at that.
amazing. I mean, that was kind of a
Yeah.
cameo, but
As himself. As zombie
I'm
Bill
gonna
Murray.
find the Bill Murray movie that I was talking about, but keep talking while I try to find it.
Yeah, so basically, you know, as I'm sure all of you guys out there are aware.
Wait, Osmosis Jones.
Oh, he was in that?
Yeah, he was.
Wait,
he was the guy in the
I
live
do
action
remember.
sequences.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Like it was like a movie about like what's happening inside a guy's body. There are a bunch of cartoon characters. Like whenever it shows what's happening inside his body, it's cartoon. But then like whenever it's showing like what's happening to the person, it's live action, and Bill Murray is playing the person, and he's nothing to work with, and other than gross out gags that are more uncomfortable than entertaining. But that's like I purely blame the director for that, because Bill Murray is a hilarious guy, and even somebody as great as him is allowed one bad movie, especially since his role was really limited in that movie anyway.
Just one. That's all you get, Bill.
Well, he also did the Garfield movie.
Oh. Forgot about that. Okay, so do you have faith in this because of what Bill Murray said, or has your opinion not changed at all?
Let's see, this be a minefield to talk about. Honestly, I want it to be good, because, like I said in one of our earlier videos, I really don't want bad movies. I want good movies to be made so that we as audience members get another movie that we enjoy. So I'm not hoping for the failure of this movie. I'm afraid that it's going to fail. Or that even if, I'm not even talking financially, I'm talking about just quality. I kind of feel like, I don't feel like it will be horrible. I don't feel like it will be great. I feel like it will get some laughs. I maybe have a cool action scene or two, but I feel like it will be largely forgettable, the movie itself, and what will ultimately be remembered was the controversy and drama surrounding the film.
Yeah, like so many movies nowadays. Okay. Well, Superman is cool, right?
Yeah.
We like Superman.
Well, I mean, I do, and I like him, but a lot of people wouldn't say he's cool. But
yeah, well, those people
could be listening right now, so...
Superman is slated to appear in Supergirl Season 2. Now, he showed himself in Season 1, but only from a distance, and in one of the later episodes, we basically saw his feet as he was laid out unconscious on a table. And it pretty much got to the point where it was hilarious how much they were going to not show him at all. But now they're actually going to have him, which means that he's technically in the CW verse, you know, the Arrowverse, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I mean, they are separate. They are separate dimensions, but they exist.
But there's always the possibility of crossover again.
Yeah, they exist within the same reality.
Yeah. So, first of all, would you want to see Superman meet Arrow and Flash? And what would that do to those shows?
I don't think it would be too much of a stretch for those shows, because they're getting more and more into superpowers and kind of the more fantastic element of the comics, so I don't feel like it's too much of a stretch. I would be fine with that as long as it's well written. I don't just want them to throw Superman in just to get more viewers. You know, to write a story that actually like earns more viewers and creates a good Superman story. But
yeah,
I could potentially see that. Also, the show is still called Supergirl, so I feel like with Superman in it, they should still be careful to make it her show. You know, don't let it become Superman's show overall. You know, she should still remain the major focus, even if Superman does get a lot of attention.
Right, I totally agree. And they'll probably do that. But I think that's awesome. I also am really interested to see now how they deal with how they use Superman, because the Supergirl TV show overall has a much more bright and optimistic sort of feel to it that is a lot more suiting to Superman, and it's going to be I think it's going to be an interesting contrast to how he's been showed in the movies lately, which haven't been as successful. And you know, the more I think about Batman vs. Superman, if I can just go off on a mini tangent.
Oh yeah, I've gone off on tangents a lot, so go.
You know, everyone is always like talking about how great Batman is and how sad it was that Batman was not shown to be as good as he usually is. But I feel like people really overlooked how Superman was also really mistreated in that movie. And I think more than the whole Batman thing, what they did with Superman, I think, is the worst part of that movie, to me.
I was reading an article about Batman vs. Superman, and the feelings that I feel like you and I both have about their handling of Superman was summed up by the author of this article whenever he points out the line that Superman has in that movie that says, "No one stays good," or something like that. Or that's basically the point, if that's not the exact quote. I've only seen the movie once. But, and the author went on to say that is not a Superman line. That may be a Batman line at its worst day, but that is not a Superman line, because Superman is the symbol of hope, and he sees the faults in humanity, he sees the corruption and the horror, but yet he honestly believes that there are people willing to rise up and do the right thing, and he wants to be a symbol to help lead those people.
Yeah.
And so for him to so quickly in his career, like, not even, like, for him to so quickly already give up on humanity and on himself in a lot of ways as a symbol of hope.
If I could, like, you know, tell you and also everyone else listening about something, there's this video by Mr. Sunday Movies, who also does a really good podcast. I say also as if ours is also really good. He does a much better podcast than ours. And he made a video talking about this very thing, which actually what got me thinking about this, talking about how Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman completely don't understand Superman. So go check out that video of his, because it basically sums up everything I'm trying to say in much more, you know, cognitive words.
Yeah, like, if I could sum up Batman vs. Superman's problems in one sentence, I would say that it misses the point of the characters on a fundamental level.
Yeah, that's basically it, you know, but weirdly enough, I don't know.
Because it does have moments that are good.
Yeah.
I would even say that I like most of the first half of it.
It's weird, I don't have as much of a problem with it as I do, like, X-Men Apocalypse, and I can't really explain why.
Maybe because you're closer to X-Men?
Maybe. I guess. I don't know. Anyways, Rogue One is reshooting bunch of shots this summer. Mads Mikkelsen, one of the stars of the movie, came out and said that this is nothing to worry about, that most movies do this, which is true, but it just people got worried because there was this rumor going around that they were doing it to tone it down a bit, make it more family-friendly, which of course everyone freaked out about. And also the word got out that they were reshooting up to about 50% of the movie, which sounds like a lot. But like I said, a lot of big-time blockbusters do this, so do you think it's something to lose sleep over?
Right now, I'm not worried about Star Wars. I mean, I do hope that they kind of make this one of the darker-toned Star Wars movies, and so I don't like the thought of them toning it down a little bit, but honestly, I'm not worried about it at this point, because whenever Disney first acquired Star Wars, I was a little apprehensive because I didn't know how they'd treat the property, but I actually feel like they've been trying to treat it with respect. Because even though they're obviously putting out a lot of Star Wars material now because they can make money and that's ultimately their goal, I feel like if you pay attention to what's happening behind the scenes, they're really putting in a lot of effort and trying to find people to kind of head these Star Wars projects who are competent and who are going to treat the material with respect and try to make something that's not just designed to take our money, but to earn our money. And
Yeah.
so far, what they've put out, for the most part, has been excellent, in my opinion. I mean, I loved Episode 7, and I think almost everything they put out has been great. So I'm not too worried at this point. I feel like they're still trying to make this as good as possible.
Yeah. If I'm going to worry about things that have no impact on my life and don't matter at all in the grand scheme of things, Star Wars is at least number 4 on my list.
This is Star Wars. What do you mean it won't have any impact on your life? If this movie is horrible, then it's just going to ruin our lives.
Yeah, I'm just going to live in the woods for the rest of my life.
I mean, honestly, we've survived Jar Jar. I mean, I will be very disappointed if Rogue One isn't good, but we've survived worse.
Yeah, so, totally. Speaking of worse, Wolverine 2 set pics have been released. Now, it looks pretty cool. We got Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine. We got Patrick Stewart as Baldy McBaldwheels. And we got...
That's insensitive.
And we got a little girl who is unknown, who we don't know who she's going to be playing, but she features heavily in a lot of these pictures. So a lot of people are thinking maybe she's a young X-23 or something, because she is apparently going to be in this movie. But yeah, the pictures look pretty. I think. Are you interested in Wolverine 2? See what happens?
Yeah, I didn't care for X-Men Origins, but Wolverine. But I did enjoy the Wolverine, and or I did enjoy the Wolverine. I kind of mumbled that, so I liked the Wolverine, and so I hope that I like this movie even more, especially since it's the last one with Hugh Jackman. Although then again, we've heard that for how many years now, so who knows? Yeah. He could come back and do 5 more for all I know.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this. I'm not sure. I think it's going to be good. I don't know. It'll probably be good enough, probably. And it's going to be Hugh Jackman's last movie, so I'm going to enjoy it just because it's going to be our last hurrah with him, probably. But after this movie, it's going to take a lot for me to care about the X-Men movies. Because, with Apocalypse, my opinion of it has actually lowered since I saw it. So
we've had the opposite reaction. I saw it again and I enjoyed it more the second time. You think less of it than you initially did.
Yeah. It was a lot more disappointing than I thought it was going to be. So after Wolverine 2, whatever Fox has lined up, maybe with the exception of Deadpool, I'm probably not going to care that much. But if they do something different, then I'm totally open to it. So we'll see how that goes. Speaking of doing different things, and by different things I mean nothing different at all, Transformers: The Last Knight, photos of Bumblebee and Barricade have been released this week, with Bumblebee being shown in the form of the product, the Camaro 2017, which looks cool as a car, because, whatever, it's a car. And then we got some art of Barricade, also known as that police car that tried to kill Shia LaBeouf that one time.
Thank goodness he failed, because otherwise we wouldn't have that amazing Just Do It speech or Rob Cantor's Shia LaBeouf song.
Yeah.
Both of those things are amazing, and it would be a tragedy if the world did not get to see them.
I know. It's pretty great. This is supposedly going to be Michael Bay's last time directing Transformers, but we've heard that since about the 3rd Transformers, so, who knows how that's going to go.
Yeah.
But are you interested at all, or do you care about Transformers 5?
Honestly, I don't care at all. There have been 2... This isn't the 5th Transformers movies. There have only been 2 Transformers movies. There was
more insight from Carson.
There was the first one, which was a dumb but yet fun action film. Like, that's a film that it's not a thinking man's movie, but you can put it on with some friends make yourself some popcorn, and just kind of lower your brain activity for a night. Then there was the second Transformers movie.
Yeah.
The one that is bad, like really bad.
Yeah.
He's been remaking that movie over and over again, and I feel like Transformers 5 is just going to be the fourth iteration of the horrible Transformers movie.
Yeah, even though he's been saying since, like, the third one that it's going to be better and it's going to be different and it's going to be more like what people expect from it, but he just continues to do the same thing. And this one has had him saying that more than any other movie. They even hired an entire new group of writers, including people like Robert Kirkman, the creator of The Walking Dead, to somehow chart a course for the next Transformers trilogy or whatever. But yeah, Transformers movies are kind of a weird thing for me because I acknowledge they're not good, they're bad, and they're not like what I would expect from a Transformers movie. But it's I can't explain it. It's like I like them sort of. I find myself actually looking forward to this next one. And I can't explain why.
Well, we all have movies like that. Like, I've got movies that I enjoy, even though I know they're not technically good movies. I have movies that I have very mixed feelings on and that I love and hate at the same time. So,
yeah.
I
think I hate these movies. I just don't know why I like them, though. It's so weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
Personally, I just find it hard to care at all because I enjoyed the first one, like as in a dumb popcorn movie kind of way. Mm-hmm. Hated the second one. Never bothered to see the third one because I hated the second one so much. Fourth one, you and I went to go see it together. And after leaving the theater, I turned to you and said, I feel like there was a good movie desperately trying to claw its way out, but Michael Bay just kept piling crap on top of it. He just had a shovel and was like standing on top of it, shoveling crap on top of it until it was buried and alive. And so far that it was almost unrecognizable. Because I actually do believe that the fourth one particularly had some really interesting ideas or concepts introduced, but they weren't capitalized upon, and the focus was in the wrong place, and basically all the problems that Michael Bay has become synonymous with.
Yeah, well, the Dinobots were in it, but they were only in it for like the last 5 minutes of the movie, and they were still like the main marketing force behind the entire film.
Yeah, it would have been like if X-Men Apocalypse had marketed Wolverine as like the main selling point of that movie, which I know that you don't like that. There was one quick shot of his claw at the end of a trailer. He wasn't in any of the posters. They didn't have cardboard cutouts of him in the theaters. So, he wasn't the main selling point of that movie. Yeah. Whereas, like, the Dinobots were featured on every promotional material for.
Yeah, Optimus Prime riding Grimlock. It's all kind of weird Rule 34 crap like that.
So about Rule 34.
Transformers. Who knows? Coming out next year. I'll be there just like the sucker I am since 2009. Okay, so the last bit of news kind of ties into our main topic today, is Injustice 2 has had its announcement trailer released, in which we basically just see everybody beating up on each other. We see Superman, Batman, Flash, Aquaman, and Supergirl, who wasn't in the last one.
Yeah, they're wearing weird armor. Some of them are wearing weird armor.
Yeah, it's weird, because I feel like only Batman would actually need that armor.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm trying to think. Like, Superman has, like, the might need armor from, like, kryptonite. Like, he has the lead armor to protect him from kryptonite. Has a spacesuit for deep space travel, but anyway, I'm gonna go through all the Superman's history and list all the armor. But yeah, mainly like a lot of them, I was like, okay, that's kind of weird and kind of makes them look less like their comic book selves.
Yeah,
so I wasn't crazy about
justify them fighting somehow, which doesn't make sense because really all we want to see is just Batman try to kill Superman.
Is it though? Because that's what Batman versus Superman was.
We don't talk about the dark times. Yeah, so are you looking forward to this game?
Not for myself. I
Mm.
love superheroes. I love DC, but I just don't really like 1v1 fighting games like
Mm-hmm.
Injustice or Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. They're just not my genre of choice, and so I am not looking forward to it myself. But I am looking forward to it to the people who like those types of games. I hope that this is a good game so that those people will have another enjoyable game to play and DC can have another good game because right now DC needs as much good stuff as it can get. And I
Yeah.
have played the Injustice game a little bit just
Oh,
with
yeah?
friends, and I thought it was fun. I mean, I was horrible at it but I enjoyed it, but it's not something I'd actually go out and buy for myself.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's more to do with personal prejudice.
yeah. I'm not a huge video game person, as I think we've well established, and will continue to establish today. But one of my favorite types of video games is the 1v1 fighter. Mortal Kombat is one of my favorite games, period, I think. Just because it's really fun to... I've played it by myself like a total loser, but it's also really fun to like play with family and friends just to see their faces when like the fatalities come up on the screen. Because that's always fun. And Injustice was made by the same people who made Mortal Kombat,
Yeah.
NetherRealm. And they did a great job, I thought, and the story mode was actually, you know, for fighting games, story modes are usually like the last thing you really care about, but for Injustice, it was actually pretty good, and it actually spawned like a 5-year running comic series, which was really good also. So I'm interested to see where the story continues, and I think it's going to be fun. So, that being said, our topic today is video games based on superheroes. And by superheroes, we're talking about comic book superheroes, because I know there's a lot of video game superheroes. I mean, Mario could technically be a superhero.
I mean, I love Mario, and I've played so many Mario games, but it's hard for me to like categorize him as a superhero. He's on his own little category.
Yeah. But we're going to be talking about video games based on a pre-existing comic book character.
Before we begin, I just want to just make sure: are we including the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in this? Because they started off as comic book characters. They check a lot of the boxes of superhero. They fight crime, but there's a part of me that always wants to kind of say they're not 100% superheroes, and I don't know why, but that's just a part of me. There's just that part of me, and so are we including them in this discussion?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't usually include them when I'm talking about superheroes or comic books of any kind, but I think for this, might as well. Because, I mean, how many superhero video games could there possibly be?
A lot. And I've played a lot of them extensively.
Well, you are the video game expert. You know everything there is to know about video games.
No, I don't.
Hey, guys, if you have any questions about any video game ever, ask him and he will say whatever it is with 100% correctness.
I will not. But yeah, like, most of the time licensed games are not very good. Like, if it's a game based on a pre-existing character, rule of thumb is it's not very good. But it took me a while as a kid to figure that out. So I played a lot of superhero games, and some of them were really great, some of them not so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got quite a lot to go into.
How many have you played through your lifetime, would you say?
I have a list in front of me.
And, oh, really?
I think there's like 30 on here.
Holy crap, dude.
Yeah.
I haven't played 30 video games in my whole entire life, I don't think.
Yeah, well, like I said, I like video games.
Yeah.
And most of these games are really short, and I'm not going to go into like a lot of depth with all of them. I'm just going to give an overview.
Yeah, you're clearly the one with more experience on this, so I'll let you drive the bus on this one.
Okay. Before we begin, I'm going to kind of institute a rating system of some sort. Basically, a 2-star rating system. If I give a game 0 stars, that either means avoid at all costs, it's horrible, or just I don't think it's worth it. If I give it 1 star, that means it's not a great game, but if you like the character it's based on and you see it for a couple of dollars at a used game store, you might consider it. 2 stars means this is a great game. Go out and find it if you haven't already.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so let's start. I'm going to kind of separate this into 3 categories.
Okay.
Our first category is computer, PC games. Now, something about me is that I'm not really a PC gamer. The reason for this is kind of because my family never really had a computer that could actually process games well. So, and then like whenever I actually got old enough and started having jobs and could actually like afford my own computer, I just couldn't get into the PC master race. I had been too indoctrinated into console culture, and so,
yeah.
I don't know. I've just never really been able to get into PC gamers. PC games. I'm not like one of those people who's like invested in the console versus PC war. Play what you want.
Yeah.
Fits your preferences. But for that reason, I haven't played very many PC games. But there were 2 Batman games that I played back in the day. One was called Batman Toxic Chill, and the other one was Batman Justice Unbalanced. Both of those came out in 2003.
2003?
Yeah.
What a weird time to release a Batman game.
And they weren't your traditional Batman games. They were Batman edutainment games. That's the term given to video games that try to teach you something while also entertaining you.
Oh, I've played some of those like that before.
Yeah, and so obviously I was 7 at the time whenever I was playing these.
Wow.
Basically, they were just puzzle mental games where you play as Batman, and they actually did have a story and actually like animated cutscenes.
Really?
And so like Batman Toxic Chill, like it was you and Robin versus Riddler and Mr. Freeze, and you had to go across the city like trying to figure out what Riddler's plans were, solving riddles and puzzles that would ultimately help you. And Justice Unbalanced was pretty much the same thing. I don't remember it as well. I think it had Two-Face and the Penguin in it.
Was it like the animated series style, or was it kind of its own style?
Kind of feels like they were trying to do the animated series style, or something like that, but they didn't have artists that were quite as good.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't like the Zelda CDI games were like laughably bad animation,
okay.
But
I've seen that before.
But yeah,
I get that reference.
And as a kid, I really enjoyed these games.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad.
Because you didn't know any better.
Yeah, like, that's going to be a theme throughout this. Like, I'm going to be talking about a lot of these games, and a lot of them are going to be, like, lean towards the positive, but that's probably going to be because I'm talking about them nostalgically.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to be objective whenever I actually rate them, but I can't be 100% objective because...
Of course.
But yeah, so I enjoyed these games. So I don't know if you have like a child who's around the age of 7 who loves Batman and
no,
who wants to, and who you feel like you need to also have some education in this video game, so you don't feel like a failure as a parent. I don't know. You might, if you happen to find these and you have a computer that they could actually still work on, you might consider it. So maybe a 1 star.
Maybe a 1.
Maybe you can find it for like $2 and you have a computer it works with, and you have somebody around the age of 7 who likes Batman. Because I really liked these games whenever I was a kid. Because, like you said, I didn't know better.
Yeah. All right. Pretty cool.
Okay, so that gets rid of our first category. Wait, do you have any PC games you want to talk about?
The Land Before Time.
Anybody
remember that?
I love Land Before Time, but do you have any like super relevant PC games to talk about?
No, I don't.
Okay, so now I'm going to go by to the second category of consoles.
Consoles.
And I did not play any superhero games on the NES, the SNES or the N64, even though those games did exist. So it wasn't until the Xbox, GameCube, and PlayStation 2 era that I played a console superhero game. So before we move on to those, do you have any from the previous eras that like predate the Xbox that you'd like to talk about?
I've never played anything on an NES, an SNES, or an N64 in my life. So
I'm so sorry.
All of you video gamers out there, you can commence your hatement on me. So, yeah. All right. What's up?
Okay. So I'm going to start with Xbox because really that's what I had as a kid, and so that's what all of the games from that era that I played were on. Now I have a Wii that functions as a GameCube, but but I haven't played any superhero games on that because I realized that they weren't as good as I remembered, and so I go back and buy any. But crap, I just thought of two more games I play that I don't have on my list. So,
oh no!
So I'm gonna go ahead and start with those games that I forgot to put on my list, so I don't forget them.
Okay.
They were honestly pretty much the same game, just with different stories and slightly different characters and levels, but they were the X-Men Legends game. X-Men Legends and X-Men Legends 2 Rise of Apocalypse.
Oh, I've seen those.
Yeah, they were basically kind of like dungeon crawlers with the X-Men characters. Okay. And I love these games. I beat them both at least. Really? I beat them both. I beat multiple times. I heard they weren't as good as people were expecting them to be. I don't know. I seem to remember my friends and I really enjoying them and them getting decent review scores. Okay. Well, cool. And so I don't know. I just remember loving them. I thought the stories were pretty interesting. I thought all the details were interesting because I learned a lot about X-Men comics through these games because they have a lot of lore stuffed into them. And I thought that was interesting, and I was playing them about the time that I was getting really into X-Men, so they kind of helped complement the other things X-Men related that I was getting into. And they didn't do anything especially revolutionary or anything, but they just did what they wanted to do really well, and so I have very fond memories of those. I'm going to give both of those 1 star, which if you have a couple of dollars and you happen to see them and you like X-Men, you might consider getting them. I've seen them for $7 at used game shops, so... Wow, okay. I don't know, I enjoy them. Cool. So now we're going to go on to Batman. One of the first games I got from my Xbox was a game called Batman Rise of Sin Tzu, which... I've never heard of that. It was basically a 3D side-scroller beat-em-up. Huh. Basically, the whole game is basically you go in, beat up this group of guys, then you can move on to the next area where you can beat up more guys while also having a story kind of connecting events. I really loved this game as a kid. I played this game a lot, and I don't know, I feel like it could have... It's another instance where I don't feel like it did anything particularly new or extraordinary, but just what it did well. And like I said, I'm really nostalgic for this game. And it's really short. I can and have beaten it in a single night. So, yeah, so it's not long, but I kind of feel like it's just the length that needs to be. Like, if it lasted any longer, it would have gotten too repetitive. I see. So I really like this game, so I'm going to give this a 1 star. All right. Very cool. Okay. Now, the next Batman game I got was Batman Vengeance, which actually came out 2 years before Rise of Sin Tzu. Rise of Sin Tzu is actually the sequel to Batman Vengeance, but they're very different games. And for a while, I feel like Batman Vengeance was the closest you got to feeling like Batman in video game form. There were times where you kind of had to look around at a crime scene. I mean, it wasn't very hard, that you just go to the glowing object and press Y. But
Yeah.
you got to fight, you got to use the gadgets, you got to drive the Batmobile and the Batplane. You got a story mission where Bruce Wayne goes undercover and like disguises his face, and you play that whole mission like that. There's one mission where you're running from the police across rooftops. It was really like one of the, like in pure design, it was one of the most accurate representations and best representation of Batman in video game form.
Really?
In hindsight,
Is it like comic book style? Was it like a comic book style?
No, it was to tie in with the new Batman and Superman adventures, kind of like, or as some people call the Batman portion of that, Batman the animated series season 4. There's kind of debate on whether it's season 4 or whether it's its own thing, just in the same universe. But
yeah, but it was that animation style sort of.
And I believe it had Kevin Conroy voicing Batman and had a lot of the voice actors back. But and it had like a story that really feels like something you'd see on the animated series, which is high praise. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I mean, looking back, there were some execution errors. Like the combat could have been better. It wasn't really that great. And also, it kind of started this weird thing where once that existed in Batman games for a little while, where after you knock a guy out, you have to handcuff him in order for him to, or else he'll get back up. But this game only gave you limited handcuffs unless you found them in levels, and I kind of thought that was stupid. So this game is by no means perfect, but it was really interesting, and I had a lot of fun with it. And so this one is definitely a 1-star. This is a 1-star, like, almost bordering on a 2-star for me.
Wow, okay.
Even though I'm more nostalgic for Rise of Sin 2, I think Vengeance is the better game overall. All right. But now the next game was arguably the worst Batman game ever made. Batman Dark Tomorrow.
Wow. This game is another one like the animated series?
No, this was done in comic book style. And honestly, like, the cutscenes were one of the best part of the game, but the gameplay sucked. Batman could get beaten up so easily, and you were helpless. The camera angles and controls were just awful. Like, I'm trying to think of a game that I like where the controls and camera were like more frustrating, and I'm having a hard time coming up with one. And it's actually the gadgets were like not intuitive whatsoever, and I don't think the game taught you how to use them. You just kind of had to figure it out. It was just an all-around bad game, and that's been reflected. I think its average score is a 3 out of 10.
What like year are we talking?
I think this is 2003.
So it's before Batman Begins.
Yeah, but
so it's just kind of like a weird nebulous.
It's kind of the same. I think it came out the same year as Rise of Sin 2. So we had one Batman game that I really liked, one that I think is horrible. But the thing is, like, at that time, I was 7, and at that time, I didn't realize that I didn't fully realize that people could make bad Batman, a bad game. So I thought I was the problem.
Oh, no.
Then as I got older, I figured out that, like, no, it was a bad game. The controls were horrible for everybody. It was basically unplayable. And, but I got really far in that game for considering how frustrating it is. I might have even gone as far as to beat it if the game hadn't glitched and, like, not open and, like, locked me in a room from which because it glitched, I couldn't escape from it. So I, like, could not progress, and at that point I gave up. But yeah, I don't really have fond memories of that. And also, like, the ending, I never got to it, but I know that the ending is really weird. There's, like, 3 possible endings, and in order to get the best one, you have to do something that the game doesn't tell you to do. And you kind of got to go out of your way to do it. And so if you don't do that, basically the world gets destroyed. There's, like, I think there's 3 endings. There's, like, one ending where, like, you defeat Ra's al Ghul's the main villain. You defeat him, but his plan works, and so he like wipes out 90% of life on Earth. You fail to defeat him, so Batman dies, and you fail to save the world, or you win.
So if there's a good ending, a bad ending, a really bad ending,
and there might even be another one. There might be one where you like save the world, but Batman still dies. I don't know.
Why?
There's like more good endings than bad, or there's more bad endings than good. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And like in order to get the good ending, you have to do something that the game doesn't tell you to, and I think it's kind of out of your way. So it's like you can only get the good ending if you like are following a walkthrough.
So I'm assuming you're not going to give this any stars.
Oh no, this is a 0. This is a burn it if you have.
Burn it.
Yeah.
Duly noted.
So
what's up next?
Moving on for that, we have Superman, the Man of Steel, which is not the movie that Zack Snyder directed. This is actually an Xbox exclusive game that starred Superman. And this is another game where I don't think it was very good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I thought that there were some interesting ideas. It showed a lot of the Superman universe and showed a lot of characters from Bizarro to Steel to Brainiac. And I remember the ground combat being worthless. Like, I never bothered to land, but in hindsight, it was not a good game. But it was, like, the only Superman game that was around at that time. That was, like, 2002.
Okay, yeah.
So, I beat it, and I enjoyed it as a kid, but in hindsight, it wasn't very good. So I'm going to have to give this a 0 star.
Oh, man. Okay.
Now we move on to Spider-Man, where I played both Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 on Xbox. Very different games. Spider-Man 1 was very linear and it had levels, and you just went through those levels and then went on to the next level. It was all okay. I mean, once again, I'm nostalgic for it, but I don't really think it's a good game. And even the further along I went as a kid into this game, the more I disliked it. But I really liked the early stuff as a kid. I loved the level with Shocker, where you get to fight him and his henchmen in the subway station, and then follow him into the subway tunnels. So
So these are based off of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, right?
Very loosely.
Very loosely.
By that, it's like you fight Green Goblin at the end.
Okay.
But it has a lot of other villains in it too.
Does he look like the motorcycle helmet Green Goblin?
If by that you mean like the Power Rangers Green Goblin and
yeah. Okay.
And,
so they kept that
movie. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's kind of like the thing with the Spider-Man games that are based on the movies. They have some scenes that the movies had in them, but for the most part, they don't follow the story. Like, it's all just a bunch of random stories just kind of happening at the same time.
Okay.
But yeah, so I enjoyed the original Spider-Man 1 at first, but the longer it went on, the less and less I enjoyed it. So even as a kid, I kind of ended up not liking it. And now that I'm older and I've played better games, I realize how bad how lackluster it was. So I'm going to have to give this one 0. Spider-Man 2, on the other hand, is the Spider-Man game I hold all other Spider-Man games, to which I compare all other Spider-Man games. Because Spider-Man 2 is a really fun game. It was the definitive Spider-Man game, in my opinion. It was open world. You could explore the city, fight random crime, and it was just awesome. And the mechanics were awesome. And I played through it a ton as a kid, and even now it's still fun to play. I'm on another YouTube channel called Gaming's Unnecessary Love Triangle. Right now,
shameless plug.
Yeah. Right now, we're in a hiatus, but we plan on eventually coming back. doing something that I hope will be really special and really kind of set us apart from a lot of other Let's Play channels. But before we went on hiatus, we did Spider-Man 2, and I was not the one playing the game, but my roommate was, and which was hilarious because he was not very good at it and he got very mad at it. But,
yes, I seem to remember.
But one time, like in between recording sessions, we like lost our progress. Like he'd forgotten that the game didn't save automatically, so he like lost like 2 hours worth of progress. And so between recording sessions, I caught us back up. Like I like played those 2 hours, and I was having a really good time. Like,
yeah,
even now I still enjoy it. So I'm gonna give Spider-Man 2 stars. I think it's owning. It's it's possibly the best superhero game from that generation.
Wow. Okay.
So now we're going to go to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
There was a game called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the Xbox. It was a beat 'em up, very much similar to Batman Rise of Sinzu, except in the Turtles universe. And I really enjoyed it. I have fond memories of that. I don't think it's a fantastic game, but I think it's competent, and I liked the Ninja Turtles, and so I really enjoyed it. So that game I'm going to give 1 star if you're a really big TMNT fan.
Okay.
Then there's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Battle Nexus. That game sucks.
Is it a sequel to the first one?
Yes, but it sucks.
So something went wrong.
Controls in combat are just feel so weird. And perhaps the biggest thing is that the multiplayer. If I remember correctly, the multiplayer in that game, whenever you're playing cooperatively, you share a life bar. So basically that means you could be doing amazing, not taking a single hit, but if your friends are still getting hit, you're still going to die. Okay. And it's just so horrible because it's like everybody's going to get hit at least a little bit, but and it actually makes it like far easier whenever you're playing it by yourself. But the game's not fun when you're playing it by yourself, so why would you? But yet, it's obviously even less fun whenever you're playing it with others, so 0 stars.
Oh, 0.
Then they came out with a third game. I don't remember what the subtitle was, but this one, I feel like a lot of people think this is the best of the series of those 3 games. I personally like the first one just a little bit more because I'm more nostalgic for it, but the third one was a solid game. It was kind of the beat 'em up that the first one was, but it was also more creative. It had these rail shooting levels and vehicle levels to kind of like mix it up a little bit. And I remember there was like this one upgrade that like made you like super powerful and basically invulnerable. And once you unlock that, and you can choose to turn it on and off, and once you got that, the game became so much fun because it became so much fun just to blaze through. And I mean, it didn't feel like you were unstoppable.
Oh, yeah.
So I really like that game. It kind of borders on a 0 and 1 star. I'm probably going to still give it 0 stars, just because I do think there are a lot of better games out there.
Yeah. Okay.
So now we kind of go back to Batman with the release of Batman Begins.
Oh, for the movie?
Yes. This was a linear game that focused a lot on stealth, which and as well as hand-to-hand combat. If you were facing a group with a gun, you had to figure out a way to either take out the guy with the gun first, or if there were multiple guys, somehow scare them so much that they like drop their weapons or become unable to use them, which I think was a really interesting element that tied into like the fear aspect that the movie was pushing.
Yeah.
And so I really liked it. The only possible issue was that it was linear. Like there was always like one way to do everything, and you needed to do it that way. So it didn't really like hold up to the So some people didn't think it held up to replaying it. I personally replayed it several times and enjoyed it, but still, some people didn't like that. And hand-to-hand
Did the
combat.
actors reprise their roles as the voices?
I don't think they did, but I don't quote me on that.
But interesting to see if Christian Bale would do a video game.
But I don't know. I enjoyed it. The hand-to-hand combat wasn't amazing, but it was passable, and the Batmobile sections were awesome.
Oh yeah,
Batmobile chase sequences, and they were very exciting. And so I'm going to give Batman Begins 1 star.
All right.
Now we go to Superman Returns.
Oh, for the other movie. Was that in 2007?
I remember when the movie... I have 2006 for the game, but sometimes games come out earlier, sometimes later than the films they're based on. Though they try to have them come out at the same time. But Superman Returns, not a good game. Okay. In concept, I really liked it, and that was actually what made me want to get it as a kid, was that, hey, it's basically like Spider-Man 2, but with Superman. It's this open world where you can just kind of stop random things from happening, random crimes and random disasters. But
that's cool.
And so I liked the concept, but in execution, it was so boring and dull.
Really? Kind of like the movie.
Actually, don't think the movie is quite as bad as everybody is, but the game, it wasn't that great. It wasn't that good. It wasn't that bad. It was just bland and very forgettable. And it was like you couldn't die. Like, you had a health bar, but if you went, it went down, you just like had to stop for a minute and like recharge with solar energy. But the city's health bar you have to watch, because Superman.
Oh, so you have to save. Okay.
So if the villains destroy too much of the city, you lose. Which once again could be an interesting idea on paper, but in execution, it was bad.
Should have had one of those for Man of Steel. You lose, the city's been destroyed.
Hey, only like a third of it. I mean, what? There were only like several million people in that city. I mean, so what? Only several million died. So Superman Returns get 0 stars.
0 stars.
Okay.
What's up next?
Well, first, let's go to the Wii.
Ooh, the Wii.
Before we begin, I just want to say the Wii gets a bad rap among hardcore gamers. I kind of feel like a lot of it is not necessarily the Wii's fault. Because I feel like a lot of people complain about the controls and things in the controller, and they're definitely weird and different, but there were some games that actually implemented them well. Nintendo knew how to use its own controller and motion controls. A few other companies were able to make some decent games for the Wii, and I just feel like most of the crap that got put on Wii was put on people companies who didn't know what to do with it, so they just put like shovelware, like just make something crappy where you shake the Wii remote and get it out there. But I do feel like there were a couple companies, mainly Nintendo, who thought about how to implement this weird, different controller and managed to successfully do that. Mm-hmm. And some games chose not to use motion controls, and that worked out. Some games implement motion controls well. And so I don't feel like it's fair to... I kind of feel bad for the Wii. Maybe it's because I'm nostalgic for Nintendo, because I grew up with Nintendo until for the first few console generations. And so... But I don't know.
Yeah, I never had a Wii myself, but that was one of the first video game consoles that I actually was really interested in, because we had a person at our church that had a Wii, and we would go over to their house a lot and play random Wii games like Wii Sports and stuff like that, which was actually really fun.
Wii Sports was fun. They made a lot of companies made games where basically the whole game was shaking the Wii remote just back and forth, and that was crap. But I don't know, like Super Mario Galaxy, like I had a little bit of motion controls, but I actually felt like it implemented them well. I enjoyed the Zelda games on Wii. I don't know. I think that, like I said, I think the Wii kind of gets a bad rap. I do think that there are problems with it that are legitimate, but I think but I think to say that it was a complete failure or that there were no good games on it is kind of uh, is is kind of a flawed statement because I do think
Yeah.
I still on my Wii I haven't gotten rid of it, and there are still games that I legitimately enjoy and think are good, well-made games, and that implement the controls and controller well. Anyway, I've got my side rant out of the way, so now we can move on to the games that completely undermine everything I've just said and prove how bad some of the Wii games could be.
Okay.
Basically, I said that just so I don't sound like I'm bashing on the Wii itself. I'm bashing on the games and the companies who made them.
Yeah.
One of the first games I got was Spider-Man 3 for the Wii.
Oh, man.
It was not good. It tried to do what Spider-Man 2 did with having an open city to explore and things like that, but the controls weren't as good. The city just didn't seem as interesting, and overall, whenever I think back to it, I just remember a very dull experience. Like, nothing really interesting that stands out to me. I barely even remember the game, honestly, and I played it more recently just because it came out more recently than I played a lot of the games I've already talked about.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
That came out in 2007, and I'm going to give that 0 stars because I just consider it a boring game that was trying to recapture the glory of Spider-Man 2, the video game, but failed.
Kind of like the movie.
Because it didn't have a comedic song.
Yeah, exactly.
Another game, Spider-Man game, came out that same year for the Wii called Spider-Man Friend or Foe. Once again, it was a beat-em-up. It was basically the premise is that somebody, spoiler alert, Mysterio, is doing something with these meteorites that have the Venom symbiote in them. Mm-hmm. And basically, he's taken over the minds of a bunch of villains, and basically after Spider-Man beats them up, they are angry at Mysterio and want to take him down, and so you can team up with the villains. Or you can team up with other heroes who Spider-Man meets along his way, like Blade, for example.
Blade was in that game?
And it focused on co-op. It wanted you to play with a friend. I played it with a friend. I played it without. And it really wasn't a good game. As a kid, there were some moments that kind of made me laugh, like with the writing. Like there were some moments where the writing or the quips that Spider-Man had, I think were decent. They probably were stupid, but I liked them at the time. And I played them with my friend Hudson in whatever grade we were in at that time, and I enjoyed the experience of playing it with him, but I don't think it's a good game, so I'm going to have to give this a 0 stars.
Dang, alright.
Then, Spider-Man Web of Shadows, the final...
Well, I've heard of that one.
The final Wii game, Spider-Man Wii game that I played. It was the best Spider-Man game on the Wii and probably the best Spider-Man game of that console generation. Mm-hmm. Probably, maybe. I don't know. Definitely the best one that I played on the Wii. I didn't play Shattered Dimensions or the other one that's like Shattered Dimensions, so I can't speak for that for them.
Yeah.
But Web of Shadows is definitely the best. I really thought the concept was interesting. Basically, Venom is now giving out, like, taking a piece of the symbiote from himself and putting it on other people who in turn infect other people. And so basically the symbiote is becoming a zombie apocalypse that infects all of New York, and then S.H.I.E.L.D. gets called in and Spider-Man is having to deal with all this. And it was really fun, and you get symbiote, but because of what happened the first time, you don't get completely consumed. You just have the black Spider-Man suit, and you can switch between it and the red, and it changes your fighting style. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
and a lot of other heroes show up, like Wolverine's in it.
Oh, yeah, I saw a picture of him with the symbiote on it.
Yeah.
Because he gets, like, consumed at one point.
Yeah.
Right?
And I enjoyed it. There were a couple of times where the Wii controls were kind of interfered. Like you swing down to like swing on buildings and swung the Wii remote right to like do a search and attack, and sometimes it would read my right swipe as like a swing, so I'd like swing away from an enemy who was attacking an innocent person, and I would get angry because I was going to attack them. But
Yeah.
it didn't happen that much. It was better It seemed better programmed than most games. It wasn't like on the level of like a Nintendo game, but it was better than a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then also they overused quick time. They used stupid quick time events, and you didn't have enough time to actually respond. So you'd have to end up like doing things in boss fights over and over again just so you could get the quick time event down. That was really frustrating, but overall I enjoyed this, so I'm going to give it a 1 star. It's probably better on the other consoles, honestly, but I can't attest to that, so I'm just going to give it a 1 star.
All right.
Okay, so this was about the time. These games all came out in 2007 and 2008, and that was about the time that I was realizing, hey, the games that are based on licensed properties are generally not very good, and the games that, and a lot of the games that I love and think are amazing are games that aren't based on any property that outside of video games. You know, they're Zelda, they're things like that, and so, but there were still a few games that I played around this time, just hoping that maybe a licensed product or film would make a good video game, because I was still stupid. Like it was 2009 that I got smart as far as video games.
Oh, wow.
And stopped buying licensed games or games based on licensed properties until after I saw whether or not they were actually good from other people who were getting paid to see if they were good. But one of the last ones was Iron Man for the Wii, which my family rented it from, I think, Blockbuster. I think this was one of the last things we rented from Blockbuster. And and so my family rented it, and I ended up playing through it in like 2 days because it was really short. It's not very memorable. I remember a few things.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't very difficult. 0 stars.
Did it, like, follow the movie
It was
at all?
kind of trying to do a Spider-Man thing where it's like it has moments from the movie. It starts and ends with moments from the movie, but a lot of the middle is just made up or has nothing to do with it and showcases other villains.
Were there a lot of cool, like, obscure Iron Man villains in there?
I don't think there really were. I really don't remember it that well, but
okay. Just random faceless enemies.
Yeah, mainly. So,
okay. That's always.
I don't really think that's a good game, but then there's Lego Batman.
Lego Batman.
All came out the same year. I like Lego games for some reason. I kind of have gotten sick of them because there have been so many of them. But I don't know. They know what they are. They do what they want to, and if you like it, great. If not, other people can have fun. But this game, it didn't do anything to shake up the Lego formula, really. I mean, it had its own story instead of being based specifically on another movie and just reenacting the scenes. And so some people didn't think that its story was as good because it wasn't based directly on a movie or anything, but I think if you're playing Lego games for their story, there's something, at least in that era, that seems a little weird to me. And so I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's like worth going out and finding, but I'll give it 1 star. And then after that point, I got wise and stopped buying games like I said, buying games based on licensed properties until after I saw if they were actually good. So the next, do you have any games that you'd like to talk about on the Wii?
No, I never, like I said, never owned a Wii, but the Xbox 360 was when I started getting into the games. So.
Well, that's my next console, and like I said, this was whenever I had figured out what game to be more selective with what superhero games I buy, and so, but the first one is Arkham Asylum, Batman Arkham Asylum, because that.
Oh, I have played that.
Yes, I can talk to you about it. I love that game.
It's very good.
The mechanics are so great. I think the story and atmosphere, like, it immediately sucked me in as a Batman fan.
Yeah.
And
it's got a lot going on in that, because there's so many, because there's a lot of villains from, like, the comics that you get to see, and it has and like you said, I thought one of the really cool things was the atmosphere, was that it felt really Batman.
No, it's interesting to me because Arkham Asylum, like, not the game, but just the institution, at this point I feel like it's very hard to make that interesting to me, because as a Batman fan, I've seen it so many times that you really have to make it memorable for it to stand out. But that game made it memorable. Like, the atmosphere was amazing.
It's got its own personality, almost.
Yeah, like the environment is almost a character in and of itself.
Yeah, and we got Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill back.
That was amazing.
Awesome.
I was so happy whenever I heard their voices.
Yeah. So, what would you rate this
This
one?
is definitely a 2-star. I love this game. It has solid mechanics, it holds up, and it laid the groundwork for one of my favorite video game series of all time.
Yeah. All right. Very cool.
Next one is Arkham City.
I played that one too.
I think that this game is technically a better game, like from a mechanics standpoint, than Arkham Asylum. But I feel like Arkham Asylum kind of has the advantage of being the first one.
Right.
And then also, like, Arkham Asylum's story, like, immediately drew me in. Arkham City's, it was kind of like, it had more to overcome because I was kind of like, an entire section of the city turned into prison.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm not sure how I feel about this. Wait, how did all these guys get weapons in here? Why would they put weapons into prison? It had a lot to do to overcome my suspension, or to get me to a point where I could suspend my disbelief. But eventually it did get me to that point, and a lot of the problems that I had, in air quotes, actually ended up being, like, explained in the part of the story.
Yeah.
And once that happened, I was hooked, and I love the game. I love how many side quests there are and how many different side villains you see and face on your side missions. And I really think it's a solid game. It's probably technically a better game than Asylum, but I'm more nostalgic for Asylum, so I probably personally, I might like Asylum a little bit more just because it was the first one. And then also, like, Arkham City, like, I love, but, like, by the end of the game, like, and after I'd beaten the main mission, done all the side missions, I had been all over that area so much that I was kind of becoming just a little bit tired of the environment because I felt like I was becoming a little bit too familiar with it. Like I've seen this place, I've been in this place like 3 or 4 times now. I kind of want to see a new environment. And that may be, then those feelings may be kind of like, in hindsight, after playing Arkham Origins, which also reused the exact same map from City and then just added more onto it. But
oh, really?
So I don't know. I feel like I liked the environment, but whenever I had finished the games, I liked the environment of Asylum more. But
yeah, it's cooler because it's like creepier.
Yeah, but I do love City as a game. And like I said, I think mechanically it's better. It takes the ideas set up in Asylum and the mechanics and upgrades them. It makes the combat, gives new layers of depth to the combat with new introductions of enemies of different types,
Yeah.
and kind of makes you have to think more than just tapping buttons. And I don't know, I love the series as a whole, and I love the combat. I love the Predator missions where you're having to take out these guys using stealth. So this game definitely gets 2 stars from me. Also, this game,
cool.
the ending, it's City's ending. It affected me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was just like, I put down my controller and I said, I don't know how I feel. But in a good way. It wasn't like, that's bad and I don't know how to feel about that. It's like, in a weird way, I feel empty inside now. But I feel like that's the intention. Like, spoiler alert for Arkham City, Joker dies at the end.
Yeah.
And the way I thought it was done brilliantly, I love the final boss fight in that game, and then I thought the Joker was done brilliantly. And Joker had been such a big part of Asylum in City, like he's constantly like talking to Batman, like the Joker, and just being the Joker. And you've been playing as Batman for hours now, and so in a weird way, Batman and Joker have that connection, and Batman and the player have a connection, and so in some way through the transitive property, we as players kind of have a connection with Joker. And so whenever he suddenly dies, it's like, whoa, I don't know how I feel about that, but it's like in the best way, because even Batman isn't really sure how he feels about it.
Yeah, that was crazy. I think Arkham Asylum was very cool. The ending for Asylum, of course, I don't think.
Yeah, nobody likes the final boss fight in Asylum.
But I think City definitely makes up for that with its ending.
Yeah. And then
So what's
Origins, Arkham Origins.
Okay, now I didn't play that one, so what do you guys say about that?
A lot of people really talk badly about this game. I don't think it's a bad game. I actually think it's a great game. It's just that it's living in the shadow of the rest of the Asylum, the rest of the Arkham games. It's definitely the weakest of the Arkham games, in my opinion, by far. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really feel like they tried to shake up the formula or do anything new, except for a few things. But the few things they did weren't very good, and I don't like the martial arts fighters in the game that you have to go up against. The recreating a crime scene just feels like a fancier version of something that we'd already done in the previous games. Mm-hmm. And also it was really glitchy. I had to shut off my console several times because the game froze in the middle. I've heard of worse glitches, like game-breaking glitches, people losing all their progress. And it very much gives the feeling of something that was put out to make very quickly to make money, rather than something that was made to really give Batman fans a game that they'd want. But that being said, it has a solid base in Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. And even though it didn't really do anything new and good, in my opinion, it's what it retained from those games still held up. And so it was the weakest of the Arkham games by far, in my opinion. But if you take away Asylum, City, and Night, and if they had never existed, this would still be, in my opinion, the best Batman game out there. It's only because of the other Arkham games and their brilliance that this game is looked down upon, in my opinion. And also,
that makes sense.
It's kind of like Asylum, where the story instantly intrigued me and sucked me in. And so I give this game 2 stars too, because I still feel like it is a great game. It's just has to live in the shadow of its superior brothers.
Yeah. All right. What's up next?
Now I'm going to move on to the PS4.
Oh, wow. Before you do, I do have 2 games I wanted to bring up for Xbox 360.
Okay.
X-Men Origins Wolverine. That was one of the first superhero games I ever played. And I played it. It was pretty cool. That's my grade. Pretty cool. Actually, honestly, what was really interesting is that in this movie, in this game, it was kind of like the other ones you were talking about that are based on movies. It's like they incorporate things from the movie, because this was technically based on X-Men Origins Wolverine, but it also had a lot of other stuff that it went and did a lot more. And I honestly think that if the movie had been more like the game, it probably would have turned out a lot better. Plus there's a lot of classic villains and stuff in this game too, so it was pretty cool. And then Deadpool for Xbox 360. That one was trying to like capitalize on the whole Deadpool resurgence that kind of happened in the last few years. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, when they had this, it was kind of like a weird mixture of like a regular, average sort of action, sort of, fighting sort of game, but it incorporated a lot of interesting like comedy and stuff, and even some nods to some actual comic book stuff that your average gamer, I'm assuming, wouldn't understand. So for me, that was interesting, but it still wasn't that fun to me. But I don't know, maybe it's because I'm not the biggest Deadpool fan either.
From what I've heard about the Deadpool game, captures his character very well. Can be legitimately funny at times, but as a game, the mechanics are just average, and as you go through the game, it just becomes very bland from a gameplay perspective, because it doesn't do anything to really evolve what we've been doing for the last, I don't know how many years in action games. It's just very standard, which is weird for Deadpool. And I've heard that like Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine for the Xbox was like one of the best iterations of Wolverine in the video game arena.
Yeah, it definitely was. It really captured the whole like visceral aspect of it, and you actually felt like you were really like clawing people up, which is nice. So that's all I have to say about Xbox 360. So now we're talking about current console generation.
Yeah.
PS4.
PS4.
Okay.
Arkham Knight.
Oh yeah, I have yet to play this game, but I really, really want to.
I feel like this is another game where some people were disappointed. I definitely understand that if you're a PC fan, because the PC game was broken, and that's a whole nother story. But on consoles, I actually think that I love this game. I don't know where I'd rank it yet. I need to play through it again, but it kept the stealth and combat that I loved. It had what I thought was a really solid story. It started out nothing too special, but the more and more it went on, the more and more. Or let me go back. It started off good, and then the longer the story went on, like the better and more intense I thought it got. It continued to throw in a lot of Easter eggs for DC fans. Some people were disappointed in the side missions, but I enjoyed them all. I mean, I've got nitpicks with the game, but no major problems. I enjoyed the combat and the stealth, and even though I was horrible at it, I enjoyed driving around in the Batmobile and doing the tank fights with it. I also felt like the map was like the perfect size, because it was like big enough. It was really big, and I felt like I was actually traversing part of a city. I felt like throughout the game, I began to get familiar with it, but it never became overly familiar, like City threatened to become. It was like I recognized the area, I knew where most things were, but it wasn't like I'd seen everything so much doing all the side missions that I had grown tired of seeing the same thing over and over again. And I mean, at this point, I really don't know what to say, because the Arkham games all are very similar in style, but I don't feel like that's a bad thing, because it started off with such a strong base, and each game has just done a little bit to tweak the mechanics and Origins that didn't really work, but in the main trilogy, I think that it worked well. And so I really enjoy this game. I really enjoy how powerful you feel as Batman, because they managed to make him feel even more powerful than he did in the last games, while still not making it too easy on harder difficulties. So, and once again, like, the way this game ends, there might be some problems with it from a storytelling perspective. Like, if you think about it too much, you can kind of see some things that might not make sense, or that you might have to think about more to make them make sense. From an emotional standpoint, it works, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so I really love this game. I'm definitely going to give it 2 stars.
All right, awesome. And Conroy and Hamill are back,
they were in all 3 of the main trilogy games.
Right.
Yeah, I love how they use the Joker in this. Like, basically, Batman is hallucinating about the Joker, and
because he's supposed to be dead.
Yeah, he is dead, but in a lot of other ways, he's even more alive than ever, because now Batman's hallucinating him and seeing him. And now the Joker can talk to Batman on an even more personal level.
It's like the ultimate win for the Joker.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Plus, there's a sequence that reminded me of Doctor Who in it, where you're actually playing as the Joker, and it's a long story, but basically you're playing as the Joker, and you're in like you seem to be in a graveyard, and there are these Batman statues that come at you, and you can destroy them, but like whenever you turn around, there are more of them. And, like, they don't move while you're looking at them, but then they remind me of Weeping Angels from Doctor Who.
That is very Doctor Who. Okay.
Yeah.
So, anything else from PS4?
No, I have nothing more for consoles. Do we want to do handhelds, or are we running out of time?
We are running a bit short on time. If you wanted to just mention a couple from handhelds that you thought were especially of interest.
Let's see. My favorite one was probably Batman Begins.
Batman Begins for the DS? Oh yeah, Advance.
Yeah, I also like the original Spider-Man, but both those are like 1 star at best. Like, cause those were games that I loved as a child, but I probably won't go back to it ever again. So yeah, I've got more, but. We'll end this video now, or move on to our next segment and then end it, because that ended up taking a lot longer than I thought, because I really had to fight my nostalgia.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was pretty cool. But the next thing to say is our recommendations for the week. I'll go ahead and go first. I think you'll remember a few weeks ago I talked about Community, that show I was watching. It's a comedy. It's been off the air for about a year now. And I kind of actually managed to go through most of that show already. So now I'm starting on another show, another one of my favorite shows called Arrested Development. And yeah, now you have seen this one. And oddly enough, it's another show like Community that has several episodes directed by the Russo brothers. So that's just kind of been my pattern I've been following. And it's really good. You can find, I think the whole series is on Netflix, so go and watch that if you like to laugh.
Okay. Normally I try to do something obscure for my recommendation, or something more obscure than something that might not get attention that I think it deserves. But this week I'm actually going to recommend something that did get a lot of attention, but I've just really enjoyed it, and so I think that it kind of deserves attention. And that is The Witcher 3 for PS4. It's the video game that I've been playing a lot recently. I didn't get it whenever it initially came out because I had a lot of other stuff to do and other games to play, other books to read, other movies to see.
Yeah, plenty busy.
Yeah, being a nerd is busy, especially whenever you aren't just focused on one medium. I've got television, TV,
a multimedia nerd.
Books, comic books. so, and video games. So I had a lot going on at that time, and so I'm just now getting around to playing it, but so far I've really enjoyed it. And so if you like fantasy RPG type games, action RPGs, I recommend it.
All right. Well, I guess that's about it for this week. We've, as you can see, we don't have visual up right now. If you guys want to continue hearing it or watch or having our episodes just be audio only, instead of seeing our actual faces with the crappy Skype resolution, go ahead and let us know. Because that's really the only way we can find out what you guys want to do is if you let us know through either the comments or through our Twitter, which is our Twitter handle is what again?
MORDORK podcast. I'll send you the link and you can put it in the description.
Yeah. So go ahead and follow that, that's probably where we'll be putting up most of our updates. But yeah, if you guys like this format, when we're not actually in person able to talk to each other, in flesh with the camera and everything, this is probably how we'll be doing it from now on, unless you guys hate it, in which case we'll go back to screens. But just to say, Skype does not have very good resolution, so that's why we decided to do audio only. But anyways, guys, thank you for listening, and until next week.
May the Force be with you, and may your consoles never red ring.
Excellent. Bye, guys. Okay, hold on.